I love those who can smile in trouble, who can gather strength from distress, and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, but they whose heart is firm, and whose conscience approves their conduct, will pursue their principles unto death. Learning never exhausts the mind. Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence. There are three classes of people: those who see when they are shown, those who do not see. Tears come from the heart and not from the brain. The greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions. Art is never finished, only abandoned. As a well-spent day brings happy sleep, so a life well spent brings happy death. Poor is the pupil who does not surpass his master. I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do. Why does the eye see a thing more clearly in dreams than the imagination when awake? The noblest pleasure is the joy of understanding. Iron rusts from disuse, water loses its purity from stagnation, even so does inaction sap the vigor of the mind. Time stays long enough for anyone who will use it. Nature is the source of all true knowledge. She has her own logic, her own laws, she has no effect without cause nor invention without necessity. The human foot is a masterpiece of engineering and a work of art. While I thought that I was learning how to live, I have been learning how to die. In rivers, the water that you touch is the last of what has passed and the first of that which comes, so with present time. The beginnings and ends of shadow lie between the light and darkness and may be infinitely diminished and infinitely increased. Shadow is the means by which bodies display their form. The forms of bodies could not be understood in detail but for shadow. Where there is shouting, there is no true knowledge. Intellectual passion drives out sensuality. Water is the driving force of all nature. All our knowledge has its origins in our perceptions. Men of lofty genius sometimes accomplish the most when they work least, for their minds are occupied with their ideas and the perfection of their conceptions, to which they afterwards give form. Human subtlety will never devise an invention more beautiful, more simple or more direct than does nature, because in her inventions nothing is lacking, and nothing is superfluous. To such an extent does nature delight and abound in variety that among her trees there is not one plant to be found which is exactly like another, and not only among the plants, but among the boughs, the leaves, and the fruits, you will not find one which is exactly similar to another. Study without desire spoils the memory, and it retains nothing that it takes in. Painting is poetry that is seen rather than felt, and poetry is painting that is felt rather than seen. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. If you are alone, you belong entirely to yourself. If you are accompanied by even one companion, you belong only half to yourself, or even less in proportion to the thoughtlessness of his conduct, and if you have more than one companion you will fall more deeply into the same plight. Principles for the development of a complete mind: study the science of art. Study the art of science. Develop your senses, especially learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else. I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do. One has no right to love or hate anything if one has not acquired a thorough knowledge of its nature. Great love springs from great knowledge of the beloved object, and if you know it but little you will be able to love it only a little or not at all. Every now and then go away, have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work your judgment will be sure. Go some distance away because then the work appears smaller and more of it can be taken in at a glance and a lack of harmony and proportion is more readily seen. As you cannot do what you want what you can do.